Hey guys, welcome to Partnership School's virtual enrichment course, The Art of Calligraphy. My name is Catherine and I'll be your instructor. Calligraphy means beautiful writing in Greek, and it's when you take actual letters and writing forms and make them so beautiful they become a work of art. Through calligraphy, you can really elevate a quote or a piece of writing to make it much more appealing and powerful. Here are some examples of calligraphy in different cultures throughout history. First, we have a sample from East Asia, where they use the brush in a lot of their calligraphy techniques. And they're one of the earliest people to use this type of writing. And then we have a sample here from the Middle East, where this is a word done in calligraphy. These are actual letters that look so pretty it almost looks like a symbol or a piece of art. Here's an example of calligraphy in Hebrew. And here's an example of calligraphy from Abyssinia. Here's an example of calligraphy from about the Middle Ages, and it's obviously a page from a songbook. But you can see how they have almost done a little picture in there. They've really added to it, and they made it quite big because the monks would write this so that everyone could see the book behind them. The whole choir could see this. It's really embellished with gold and whatnot. And here's another example of Western calligraphy in a religious book where it's so embellished, actually the writing almost seems like secondary to the big picture. This person really went wild on this piece. And here's an example from about 100 years ago of more of a flat nib type calligraphy. And finally, here's an example from a famous calligrapher who is still alive today, Sheila Waters, and it's her rondel. And if you look carefully, it is really intricate. There are different types of calligraphy on this, different colors. It's really a piece of art, for sure. I got started doing calligraphy when I was about 11 years old, and my father gave me a set of pens. I just used a workbook and I taught myself. And within about a year and a half, I was doing the diplomas for my elementary school. Through high school and college, I did a bunch of different projects, both for gifts and for commission. And when I got older, I opened up my own calligraphy studio, and I do a lot of wedding work. But it has brought me a lot of enjoyment over the years, and it makes for a very useful skill when you're sending a letter or making a gift for a loved one. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so there are basically two different types of instruments used to do calligraphy. One is a pen and one is a brush. And the brush calligraphy is used a lot in the Asian calligraphy. Here's some brushes. But the pen is what we're going to be using. We're going to be using a flat nib style called italic, which is the first we're going to be taught here. And so here is actually a pen with a nib, and I often dip that in ink when I do my work. But the greatest thing is they make a lot of good pens like we're going to use today that are easy for practice. Then you don't have to fool around with ink or stuff like that. So you'll see that with this one, it has a sort of a wider nib this way, but if you turn to the side, it's very thin. And that's how we're going to make the thicks and thins of our letters, which is what calligraphy is all about. And there are different types of nibs. This is a flat nib or a broad nib. There's also round nibs, and there's also pointed pen nibs. And here's an example of a pointed pen nib. It has a little flange there, and it's used for more scripty stuff. And instead of doing the way it does thicks and thins, because it comes to a point, is that the point opens and shuts, and that's how it does its thicks and thins. But with us, we're going to do our thicks and thins by keeping it on a angle. So, let's get out our first practice page. And I've made these practice pages for you guys that have the main area where you're going to be doing your writing, and then the top for the ascenders, the ones that reach above the main area, and the bottom for the descenders, the ones that go below the area. And then there's a little space. It's really important that you use lined paper. And if you can't print out the practice pages that I sent, then maybe just take a ruler and make some lines. because discipline is how you're going to have good letter forms. It's really like exciting to race ahead and write all these things, but you'll be a much better calligrapher if you work on getting the forms right before that happens. So let's get out our pilot pen, and what you're going to have to do to get it started is unscrew the barrel. Now I already have this in here, but I'm going to take it out so I can show you. And take a cartridge. Here's a new cartridge. And I'm going to put it in and really push it till it goes all the way in, right? Then I'm going to screw back on the barrel. And we're just going to do some sample marks just to get it going. Now, mine had a cartridge in there already that I had just used, so it has ink already in the pen. You might need to do some little squiggles, some lines, maybe touch it briefly to a little bit of water to try to get the ink flowing. Once you have the ink flowing, and you can stop this video for a minute to get yourself prepared with your ink and make sure you have the right paper and everything like that, we can get started with the first stroke. So, the key with italic calligraphy is to keep your pen on a 35-degree angle. See how my pen is on that angle right now? That is really important. This is where things like the protractors really make a difference. Okay, so get yourself set up on the 35-degree angle, and let's try to just do a first few strokes. We're just going to do a stroke down. Just pull your pen straight down, straight down, straight down. This paper bleeds a little bit, but you can see actually that you should have, if you're keeping it on your angle here and your angle there, your 35-degree angle. So let's just do a few just to get used to the angle. And you want to make sure that, as I say, you have the angle and the angle. Okay, once you've done a few of those, and you're getting used to your pen is working, we're going to start with the first letter, which is going to be the letter N. And you see how I have my paper tilted a little bit? That's often best, and keep your pen at an angle, but also to keep your paper tilted so you don't like bend your back in an awkward way. So the N is just a stroke down, and then up, and then down, and a little up. So the key thing is, you see here, is that we want to show the thins of when it's sideways and the thicks of when it's going straight down. And as I say, this paper bleeds a little bit. This is just regular. I just printed this out to show you that's on regular printer paper. It's nothing fancy here. So we're going to try the N again. Down, up, up. So what you want to do is practice these N's, and the N does not go above this middle line where you're going to do all your letters. And how we know that the N should fit in this space is, when you're doing italic, if you're wondering how big your letters should be, they should be 5 widths of the pen. So see how this is 5 widths of our nib? That's the size of the heart of our letter with these N's. So you're going to do a row of N's. And once you get your N's looking pretty good, what you want to do with all of these things is get yourself ready, think about what you're doing, and do the N. Make sure you have enough space that you aren't doing them too thin, there's enough space here, or too curvy. So once you do a row of these, what's always good to do is just keep doing the same thing until you think that you've perfected it a little bit. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You can move on before you get everything perfect. Then you look back on your row, and I usually take a different colored pen, and I circle the one I think is best. And I think it's always important, too, to keep the examples of what you want to be doing. Like making sure you're looking at the alphabet here so you can say, oh, N, this is what I want it to look like. And then once we've done a bunch of N's, let's do some M's, okay? M is exactly the same thing. Down, up, and a little bit of curve at the M. M. Take your time. There's no reason to rush through these. M. Now, as I say, with a little bit of better paper, this paper bleeds a little bit, but with a little bit of better paper, these should be very thin on these thin spots. M. That was a little too curvy on the end there, but, you know. And then the next letter that's very similar to these, once you've done a row of M's, I'm just pushing on here. You should pause this video and work on a bunch of M's. In fact, if I were you, I would do 2 rows of N's and 2 rows of M's before I even go on. But I don't want this video to be super long and in real time, so I'm going to show you the next letter, and that's R. R. So it's just like the M or the N, but you stop it right there. Okay? So as I say, practice these 2 things, and when you're ready to move on to the next letter is going to be K and H and B. And P, actually. But here's how you're going to do the K is going to be an ascender. It's going to go up. Now, even though this middle part is the 5, whoops, I didn't write the very well. That's because I didn't write it. It's the 5 widths. The ascenders are only going to be about 3.5. And same with the descenders. It's only going to be about 3.5. Okay, so let's do the H. Start at the top, 1 big stroke down, up. So it's sort of like an N, but you just started a lot higher up. Once again, start at the top. And every once in a while, if you feel like you're getting off or it doesn't look like this at all, go back to your angle of your pen and match it up and make sure that your pen is at that angle. Okay? H. Great. And we will show you different flourishes. Once we get these letter forms down, once you've really got the letter forms down, we can do a lot of fun things. And then K is the same. It's just down. Oops, I didn't actually. See, I myself made a mistake there. You want to make sure you put full pressure on your downstroke. So, down, up, and a little foot. K. Down, curve around, and a little foot. K. K, K, K. And then we'll do some B's. Am I still on this camera? Yes, here I am. The B, also going to start at the very top. We're going to go down. We're going to come up. And actually, do you see how I did 2 different things? It doesn't one stroke. You're going to go down, up, down, and then I actually come from the other end, so it has just a perfect little meeting there. Okay, we'll try that again. Down, up, down, and I meet. Just meet it. B. Right? Oops. Down, up, down, B. Okay, and then we'll do a P here. The P goes down. So now I've gone into the descender. With the B, I went all the way to the top with the ascender. Now this is where the descenders are. But then I do the same thing I did with the B. Bring it around. And so it's really just the same thing going down. You can see that even my pen is putting out a lot of ink, and I have a little bit of blurting here, but no worries, this is just practice. We need to get our letter forms well so that we can do some really fun things. So P, P. Okay. The good thing is you can print out as many sheets of this paper as you need. So let's go on to some more letters. I want to show you all the lowercase letters today so that you can practice all these lowercase letters in the next week, so that next week we can do the uppercase letters, and then we can just keep working and get this italic under our belt. So let's put our pen on a 35-degree angle, and let's do O. O is just one stroke down, and then you go back up to the top and one stroke down again. It's actually sort of ovalish. O. O was a difficult letter for me, especially when I was younger. Like now I've got it down, but man, my O's looked really, bunch of different O's, bunch of different things. Now with the italic here, the O is thinner. This is not a fat O. That is a fat O. Or a really round O. Nope, that's a different type of writing. And we will cover that type of writing before this course is over. But see, if I were looking through this and I was saying which one's the best O, man, maybe I'd pick this one. But not those. Those are way too fat. You want to keep them sort of ovalish. And then C. C has a little top. And then it comes down, just a little top, and then down. And remember, feel free to stop the video at any time to practice. Like if I were you, I'd fill the page with O's. Once you get the O down, it's great, but it takes a little while sometimes to get the exact right ovalness. Now E. E is the stroke down that you're doing with the O, but you come back up and you cut it into the middle. E. And D. Okay. Actually, the D is the beginning of a different bunch of letters. The D is the beginning of a bunch of different letters, and actually all comes from the A letter form. So A, like this. And the A is one of the prettiest letters of this alphabet. So you're going to do the first stroke is at the top, then you come down, and then you pull up. When you're pulling up, it's going to be a thin line, and then you do the back again. And A is a very satisfying letter to do with this alphabet, because it's super pretty. Any of you have A's in your name, it'll really look good. So A, and if I were doing this without teaching you guys this video, I would do a whole, and you see how I connected those? We'll talk about connecting of words later. A whole row of A's, and then I would go back and circle which A I thought was best. So we did the D, but let's do it again. The D is just like the A, but you go up to the top and you come all the way down. D. That D was not very good. So even though I've been doing this a long time, I would probably say, I don't like that one at all. G. G is the same thing, keeping with the A letter form. You do the A letter form, but instead of stopping, you go all the way down. G. And I curved it, and then you can see I went back to do that. So I actually did this first, then this, and then the way down, and met it back there. At first this may seem complicated, but over time it will just be second nature. G. Okay. And then Q. Q has a really fantastic capital. If anyone has a Q name, it's really fun. I have a son with a Q name, and it makes for, Q is a fun letter. Makes for a really cool capital. Q. Okay? You do a whole row of Q's, But we're going to keep moving on because I'm just doing all these letters. So every time I get to a new letter, you should stop the video and practice. A whole row, probably 2 rows of each letter. And then L. L starts at the very top and comes down. L is very simple, but it's important to keep your pen at the 35-degree angle. L. And T is almost like a small L with a cross right, it goes just halfway up there, and the cross is right on the line. And you'll see when you practice, there are certain letters you like and certain letters you don't like. And it's funny because when I first started, the O was one I really couldn't get the hang of, and also the S. We haven't gotten there yet. I. Let's try an I here. I is like a very tiny L. I. And then J. Now J goes down, so it's going to start like an I, and then it's going to go all the way down to the bottom line, and you come from the other side, put a little dot on it. Now, the only letter that goes from top to bottom that is both an ascender and a descender, but also keeps in the meat of this, is the F. So the F is going to go all the way down the bottom and the top, and it crosses right on the line. So it's a really big letter. F. It goes both from the bottom and the top. Okay, and the last few letters here of the lowercase alphabet, so put our pen on the slant. V, just you come right down and you go up with a little bit of curve. Come right down and you go up. W, it's like 2 V's, down, up, down, up. Oops. And then X, so with the X, I actually cheated a little bit. I turned my pen a little more than 35 degrees, because I kept it at 35 degrees. I'm not sure to be right, but so down and then up, X. Y, oh, actually Y and U. U is like an upside down N. Goes down, up. So you have the first stroke and goes in, and the second stroke is down. U, and then Y, which is just a really long U. And you see, if you're keeping your pen at the right angle, you'll see that my top things actually have a slanted top here. Okay, and finally S. The S, you do the top stroke, the middle swirl, the bottom stroke. Top stroke, middle swoosh, bottom stroke. And you see the top one isn't very curvy, but the bottom one is, almost like a hook. Top stroke, middle stroke, S. There. So there we have all the lowercase letters, and you can look at the printouts to see them all, and practice these every day till next week. And then next week we're going to go over the capital letters. And you can always remember something that Suzuki said, and he said, and this is something that I made a long time ago, but I pinned it on my bulletin board. He said, practice only on the days you eat. Okay, so keep practicing all these lowercase letters this next week, and you can practice fun sentences like the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. That uses all the letters in the alphabet. Or jaded zombies acted quaintly but kept driving their oxen forward. That one too. Anyway, I'll see you next week for the uppercase letters.